All right. Today we're going to review how to use your graphing calculator to collect data from our 4-class data set and make a comparison comparing two individual variables, height versus shoe size, and that will be our class activity. But before we do that, we want to review how to enter that data, how to input it into your calculator, and then how to generate an algebraic model, a linear function, to our data set. Okay? And so I'm going to step through these steps listed up here on the smartboard and make sure you guys remember how to create a scatter plot. All right? We're going to do it electronically today, and then you guys will assemble the data at the end of the class period before you leave using the graphing calculator. Okay, so let's get started. If I'm going to input data into our calculators, everyone needs to turn their calculator on. All right? And we have two lists of data, so I want you guys to go through this exercise with me and make sure we're all on the same page before we start our class activity. You need to input your data, okay? And so our two lists are, if you take a look here, our two lists are L1 and L2. All right, so make sure you can get those to come up on your stat list, edit, and make sure you have L1 and L2 available to you to input your data. All right? Let's all do that, please. Let's all do that so you know how to operate your calculator when we get to our class activity. Try and do it on your calculator so you know what we're doing. All right, so you have to press the stat button. Press the stat button, and then enter your data into L1 and L2. And if you need some assistance resetting your lists, if the lists are all messed up, I'll come around and help you. Okay, yes. You just, when the lists are not viewable, what you're going to do is go back to Stat, Setup Editor, which is a 5, press Enter, and then go back to Stat, and that list will be there for you, L1 and L2.
Where do you go for this?
Okay?
You go to help?
Nope. Go back to Stat. And your lists are there, you can enter your data, and it looks like they may already be there. Okay? Some of you already have your data in there. Good. Okay? Okay. Do all of you have your data entered? All the data's in? All right, so that's good. With all the data entered, then let's go to the next section of our review. All right, go into this. I'll just scroll down here. All right, we're going to go back to the home screen. So we're going to go second mode and quit, go back to the home screen. Make sure you're on the home screen, and I'm just going to adjust my view so I have a full screen view of what we're talking about there. Good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on from here. Everybody back on the home screen? Okay. Next piece that we're going to try and accomplish here is to take and look at the scatter plot. Get it to plot that for us so we can view it on the screen of our calculator. So you want to go to second y equals. That's step number 1. And I'll just circle it here as we go down through. Second y equals. Your scatter plot should view then. You have to set it. And I'll point to the very first plot choice. All right, the very first plot choice is your scatter plot. So that's the one you need to select. And then make sure your x list is L1. And your y list is L2. And if you've forgotten how to get those list names in there, all right, down here on the instructions where it says to scroll, all right, you press second 1 to get L1, and you press second 2 to get L2. All right, so those are the instructions on how to set your plot. All right, once you've got your plot, turn your calculators towards me so I can see your scatter plots. Make sure we've got them displayed. Okay, you need to go a step further. When you, okay, you're far enough. You're right where I want you to be. You guys are a step further than we are. That's good. And You're there. You're not there. Okay. Now, I'm going to go on to the next one. Next slide here. And, all right, that's what your scatter plot should look like. You're going to press the graph window to see your scatter plot, or you can press Zoom 9. Either one allows you to see your plots. So if you do the Zoom 9, that's my favorite. It's the quickest, I think. It gets you a statistical window, and your data then is displayed in quadrant 1. All right, do you guys see the difference? When you press graph, all right, you have all 4 quadrants. Quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, and quad 4. Right, so you'll see all 4 quads if you press graph. If you press Zoom 9, you'll see the statistical window. Everything's in quad 1. Your second one's on. We want to turn that one off. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next window. Okay, we talked about R values, okay? And your calculator will calculate your R value, but we said +1 is a perfect fit for your trend line. Once it'll fit a trend line to your data set. A +1 is a strong positive, meaning as X goes up, Y goes up. A strong negative, as X goes up, Y goes down. These are perfect fits. A +1 and a -1 are what we call a perfect fit. All right. So we've talked about this before. Just want to go back over it quickly before we start using the calculator in our class activity today. The ones here, a +0.5 and a -0.5, those are very weak. Okay. The relationship between X and Y is not very strong. Okay. And if you have a 0 correlation, then there's no correlation. Okay, there's no relationship between X and Y. All right, so we're going to compare 2 variables today, and we want you guys to get used to the correlation coefficient, what that means. All right, now we need to verify that your diagnostics are turned on. So we're going to go and press second, and we're going to look for the catalog key, which is directly above the 0 button. So press second 0, and you're going to scroll down till you find the diagnostics on. All right? You're going to scroll down until you see the diagnostics on. You're going to press enter on it, and it'll say done. All right, with that done, all right, then we can find the correlation coefficient. We can actually calculate a correlation coefficient and come up with a trend line. Now, one thing though, we have to recognize what kind of regression that we're going to do. And when you were looking at the scatter plot, was it straight roughly or curved roughly? All right, approximately. When you look at that scatter plot, and I can do it quickly. You guys just stay on the screen. But if I back up and I look at the scatter plot, does this data seem or appear to be roughly straight? Yes, it models basically a straight line kind of appearance. All right, so I'm going to go forward here, and I'm going to go to that slide. And what we're going to do is show you how to calculate that algebraic model. You're going to do a linear regression. All right, so we want to go back to stat. We want to scroll right, all right, to calc. All right, and I want to select 4. That's a linear regression. And that will allow us to model a straight line to our data set. So we can come up with a trend line to make some predictions from. All right, so when you press linreg, it's automatically going to take the data that's in L1 and L2, because that's how it's set in your calculator. Only the data that's in L1 and L2. So if you accidentally put your data in other lists, then it will not calculate the regression for the correct data set unless you tell it that. So by default, L1 and L2 are always the 2 lists that it pulls the X data and Y data from. Okay, X being the independent variable in L1 and Y being the dependent variable in L2. All right, bless you. Okay, so the next step. All right, once you have linreg on the home screen, then press enter. It will calculate this algebraic model, this linear model right here. Y equals AX plus B. Okay, now for our data set, okay, our data set's different than what I have up here on the notes. What is our A for our particular example? What do we have there? What's A?
1.053.
Okay, so it's 1.056 repeating. Oh, it's a 5 repeating. So you go 1.056 and you got it, okay? If we go 3 places after the decimal, all right? The more you round it, the less accurate or the more it affects your correlation coefficient. So you want to be careful rounding. All right, so B, what is our B from our data set that we entered into L1 and L2? 8. Thank you. And what's our R value? I'm not interested in R squared, just R. 0.92. Okay, that's a pretty strong correlation. Okay, it's close to +1. All right. So we're indicating that, hey, we have a pretty strong correlation between X and Y. All right. So now let me go on to the next slide here. Okay, so now on this slide, what I want to do is demonstrate for you how to go one step further than what I had included in the notes here, so you guys can actually take the equation and put it into your calculator. Okay. There's 2 ways we can do it. We can do it manually, and I'm going to back up and show you manually real quick. Okay, manually we can fit that line to our data set by going back to Y equals. Okay, so what I want you guys to do in your calculator, go back to Y equals, and I want you guys to type in, all right, and I'm just going to write it here, type in your calculator 1.056, all right, use the X button. The X button is right beside alpha key. The X button that you need to use is right beside the alpha key. All right, so press the X button. Then you're going to type plus, type in 1.178. All right, and if you press graph, once that's done, the calculator will fit that line to the data set. All right, and you'll notice that we roughly have how many points above the line and how many points below the line. So almost half the number of points are above, half the number of points are below. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. Now, once I have the line, I can make predictions about and discuss our data. All right. Let's make the analysis. What kind of correlation does it have? Based on our little sample, what kind of correlation did you guys have? All right. Brittany's saying it's a positive correlation. How can you tell that it's positive? As X increases, what does Y do? Okay, as X increases, Y increases. Now, it's not a very large data set, but as X increases, Y increases. All right. With the line on our data set, all right, you can go to a point on the line by pressing the trace key, all right, and you can make predictions from the algebraic model about the data set where there are no data points. Okay, so that's the beauty in this using the graphing calculator, is it puts the best fit line, the trend line, right on your data set, and then you can make predictions from it within the data set or outside the data set. Now, I showed you how to manually enter it here. All right, I'm going to go to a blank page here. If we want the calculator to do it, all right, and I'm just going to add this set of notes here. All right. Let's just say use using calculator to, and my screen is not oriented. We're going to have to stop for a second. So what we're going to put down is how to use calculator to input equation. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to use the calculator to input the equation instead of us manually entering it. Okay, so here are the steps. Here are the steps. All right, step 1. All right, you're going to press y equals. All right, after you've done the linear regression, you're going to press y equals. So I want all of you guys to go and do that. Press y equals on your calculator. Go to y equals. All right, now you guys currently have an equation in there. All right, so I want you guys then to, after you press y equals, then the next key that I want you to press is the clear button. I want you to clear out the equation in y1. All right, that way it's cleaned out. All right, step 2. All right, once that's done, I want you to press the VARS button. All right, so press VARS or VARS, and once you press the VARS button, all right, you're going to press 5, which is statistics. All right, and after that, step 3, then you're going to press, and actually it's going to be a scroll, to EQ. And press enter. And that will put the exact numbers the calculator computed into your y equals. Okay. And you'll have all of the decimal, all the digits after the decimal included instead of you having to round, and that makes our best fit or trend line much more accurate than us rounding it and then inputting it manually. And so those are the instructions on how to input an equation directly from the calculator, so you don't have to do anything as far as manually inputting the equation, and that's very beneficial and helpful. Okay, so get those instructions down, and that's where we'll stop for today.